Hello everyone, my name is Yuri from Mouse, and today we are at a very special track. This is Motorland Aragon. It's just been added to iRacing this season. This is week 4 of the GT3R Sprint Series, and we are driving in the also newly added 992 Porsche with the nice Rexy livery from Le Mans. So this track, it has so much elevation. There's a lot of flow in this track, except for the hairpin. I think it's been one of the best additions in iRacing in a long time. I really hope this track gets popular because it's not a very popular track in real life, but it is a lot of fun to drive. So without further ado, let's get into the track and start learning the track because I promise you it's worth it. So here we are, start of the lap. Into the only corner on this track that I really don't like. The hairpin is very tight. Last two corners should be easy flat, and this track really lends itself well for these higher downforce GT3 cars. Turn 1, we're looking at the 100, brake at the 100, use all the curb on the right hand side, aim for the anti-cut. Turn 2 is easy flat, bring it over to the left hand side, again use the curb. Small hint of a lift here, bring it over to the right hand side. Start braking just before the curb ends on the left side. Bring it over to the left here, brake just before the white line. And as you can see, in a lot of places here, we're gonna use all the green on the left side. Same here, brake just before the 50. The downhill twister here. Try to at least have 2 wheels on the curb here on the exit, and then stay on there until it ends. Gradually keep turning and you should be able to take it flat. We're looking at the second white line here. It's almost flat here. Brake just after it cones on the left side. Keep it tight here to try to set up a good exit for the straight. Long back straight, and then just the hairpin really left, and we want to brake just before the 100 on the track, and then we want to open up the corner afterwards. Want to brake just before the 100, open up the corner after, and this should be easy flat. And that's the lap around Aragon. Really a lot of fun, I have to say. So have a closer look from the outside camera here. Alright, so here we are, start the lap. Let's take Rexy around the lap of Aragon. And as I said before, this track lends itself so well for these high downforce GT cars. It has so much flow in it. I really think this is one of, maybe even my favorite track in iRacing right now in the current GT3 cars. So really worth to learn the track. Let's get to it then. Turn 1. As you can see, in a lot of these places, the track limits is that you need to keep the inside 2 tires on the curb at least. And that means that we want to use all the track available, and we want to be braking with those 2 tires on the curb to go as far to the right as we're allowed to. And you'll see that going back in a lot of corners, not all of them. Sometimes it's a bit too bumpy in the outside. So for turn 1, we want to be looking at the 100. Brake from there. As you can see, 2 left side tires on the curb. Bring the car to the inside. And what we want to be aiming for is this anti-cut here. You never want to clip that. If you clip the small ones here, the car gets really upset. But you want to be aiming for that. You don't want to be looking at this curb here. You want to be aiming at this one and aiming just to miss that. On the exit here, again, the track limits, 2 tires on the curb is fine. They're consistent everywhere here. Then turn 2 should be easy flat. And what we're aiming for, again, is the inside 2 tires on the curb here to open up turn 3. And turn 3 is tricky. You can just about take it flat depending on the temperatures. But a small lift here really saves the tires and makes it so that you're not scrubbing the speed up anyways. So a small lift here, right as you get to the apex, gives the front end a bit more grip. This anti-cut here is not a super small one, so you can clip this a bit without upsetting the car too much. And this lap I slightly missed it, but you can clip it without getting too punished. Then for turn 4, you want to be coming over from all the way from the right hand side. Again, as we're used to, we want to be braking as much in a straight line as we can. And the way we do this is coming all the way from the right hand side. And I try to start braking just before the curb on the inside ends here. And we want to be aiming for this point here on the outside. So slowly braking. As you can see, inside 2 wheels on the curb again. Slowly bring it inside and try to keep the speed up here. And again, we want to make sure, because we're turning and braking, that we're not braking and turning too much at the same time. If we do that, the car is going to either lose the front or the rear end. So want to be really smooth on the brakes, not much brakes, especially from this point here. Carry that to here, and you can go on throttle quite early. Keep the car to the right side here. And for the next corner, we want to keep it to the left side. So for the previous stint, you can keep it to the right side, but you want to bring it over to the left side. And I would recommend being on the left side with the left side tires at least over the curb at this line already. It just makes it a bit easier to brake in a straight line from here, so we're not coming all the way from the inside. From here, same story. Inside 2 tires on the curb, and I want to be braking just before the second white line. And then just a 90-degree right-hander here. Want to be aiming for the curb. Not much special. Exit again. Quite flat. Inside 2 tires on the curb, and we want to keep it there the whole straight. And then we get to one of the most interesting corners on any track that I've seen. It's like a downhill corkscrew that just keeps on going the left-hander. You want to be braking maybe at like the 60 marker here. So not just before the white line, but about 60 before. Bring it over to the right-hand side. You don't want to clip this curb here on the right side when it starts. You can clip it slightly after it started from the side. That's not the biggest issue. You want to be keeping it tight here. Want to be at the middle of the track. You don't want to be exiting the corkscrew from the left side here, or the car is just going to understeer really, really bad. So you want to make sure that you're at least in the middle of the track here and not overshoot the right-hand kink. Then bring it to the inside. And you want your left side tires at least to be clipping the green here. Otherwise, you're not really hitting the apex. And from here, want to be coming off of this, and we're going from a downhill to flat again. That means the car gets pushed into the road a bit, and we want to use that to go on throttle maybe a bit earlier than you can expect. Again, we have a bit more grip because the car is being pushed into the road. That means we can go on throttle here without losing the rear or the front. Again, 2 tires on the curb, and the next corner here is a flat out left-hander, but it's really tricky to take it flat. You need to have the exact right line for it. So let's go from the onboard and show it one time full speed, and then I'll explain where to go. So we're coming from the outside here, and then clip the apex. And if you clip the apex well, so on the inside here close to the grass, it should be no issue to take it flat without getting the off-track on the exit. But the reference I would like to take here is keeping the 2 inside tires on the curb and driving all along this curb here until this ends. So at this point where it ends, I start gradually bringing the car over to the inside. So not very quickly, but just keeping with the same kind of radius as this corner, gradually bringing the car over to the inside. There's an access road that starts here, and we're apexing a bit after this access road. So if you're apexing here already, you're going to struggle keeping the car on the road without lifting. So we're going to apex a bit after that and try to get close to the grass here on the inside. And then if you do that, from here on out, it should be easy to keep it flat without getting the off track on the exit. So it's all about knowing where to turn in there. And then it feels like you want to go over to the left side here when you start learning the track because there's a curb, but you actually don't. You don't want to be coming to the left side. That's for another layout, this curb on the inside here. So for this layout, we want to be keeping it close to the outside because the next corner is going to be a left-hander. We want to be looking at the 100, but unlike some other tracks where there's no reference at the 100, they've been really nice here at Motorland Aragon, and they gave us a couple of white lines in the outside that correspond with the markers on the left side. So even though we don't have to be looking at the 100, we know exactly where that is. So we want to break it over to the right side here. Again, inside 2 tires on the curb, and we want to be braking just before the 100 here. Down 2 gears, and we get the left-hand kink. You can be exiting all the way to the right side here. You don't have to keep it tight for a better entry for the next right-hander. It's not that important. More important to keep the speed up. And if you went a bit too wide than the previous left-hander, you can just go off the throttle a tiny bit more here. And the reason the speed through this corner is not that important is because immediately after this corner, we get to the next braking zone already. And the brake zone here is where this different layout goes to the left side at the start of this cone. So where this cone starts, I go on the brake. Use as much as the road as you can, so close to the cones here on the left-hand side. Bring it over to the right side here. And unlike the first left-handers of this complex, you don't want to be running all the way wide. Because this corner here, the 90-degree left-hander, will lead us onto the very, very, very long back straight. So what we want to do is sacrifice this first right-hander. So we want to be clipping the curb and never really going past halfway of the track here. So we want to ignore that this half of the track ever exists. From this point, again, bring it over to the right as much as you can, and then we'll go from the inside cam. You want to brake just before you do the direction change. Puts the weight on the front side. And then from here, we want to be aiming at this anti-cut. And for the keen height, this again is a very small anti-cut. So you never want to clip this. If you clip this, the car is just going to go airborne and maybe even get you some floor damage. But you want to be getting close to it. And because we went from the outside here, set up this corner well, by the time we get to the apex, we can already start going on the throttle. And just after we pass the apex, we should be able to go flat. And if we did that right, that means we get a good exit for the back straight, and the back straight here just keeps on going. The motor layout goes left here, we keep on going straight. Another layout goes left there, also keep on going straight, and then we get the hairpin. And this hairpin might look fairly innocent, but I think this corner is where you can gain or lose the most time on the whole track. And it's very tricky to feel the limit of the car here because the corner is so tight. It starts out with the braking. And unlike pretty much all the rest of the track that we've had, we don't want to be putting our inside 2 tires on the curb here because the outside is too bumpy. We want to be braking hard, and if we're braking the outside, even though this car is ABS, so we won't be locking up, it's going to really cost you a lot in braking performance. So what we want to do is we want to start braking on the track here. But there's a but. The corner is so tight that if we start turning in from the track here, we would have to slow down a lot more than if we would start braking from having the inside tire on the curb. So we want to be doing a compromise. And I know I don't like braking not in a straight line normally, but there's always an exception to the rule, and this seems to be the exception. So what we want to be doing here, from my testing at least, we want to brake in a straight line initially, brake as hard as you can here on the flat, where there's no bumps like on the right side. And then just before we get to the 50 mark, it is also different than the curb. We'll get to that. We want to be coming over to the right side to open up the hairpin and make it so that we don't have to be turning quite as tight. Because as close to as tight as we can turn in these cars to make it through the hairpin. It's kind of awkward. It takes away a bit from the flow. I think if this hairpin was a tiny bit wider, it would be a bit better. That also means that if you want to overtake here, you go down the inside, you're going to really struggle making the corner still. But when we're driving along, we're going to be looking at the 100 and brake at around 120 to 110. So from here, we'll be braking where it's nice and flat. And then when we get to the 50 here, we want to start to turn to the right. That means going off the brakes a bit because we start turning and then go to the right. And we want to be using this bit of curb only at the end here. If you start braking on this from this point here already, there's a couple bumps. And you'll either have to start braking a lot earlier or just go straight. So I try to make sure that where there's dark green patches here, at that point, my left side tires are getting close to the curb. So that looks a bit like this. And then from this point here, we start turning in and try to just keep it tight. And you can run all the way to almost the curb on the outside there. Maybe you can even clip the curb a tiny bit and still keep it flat in the next right-hander. In different cars, like the Porsche Cup, you want to be keeping it a bit tighter from the hairpin because this corner here makes it so that you don't have enough traction to go flat. In the current GT3 cars, we should have enough downforce to run quite wide out of the hairpin like this. And still keep it flat here. As you can see, small anti-cut, so we don't want to clip those. The car gets airborne, we want to get close to it. And it should be easy flat here, and the last corner is very easy flat. And then you've completed a lap around Aragon. So there you go, that was a track guide around Motorland Aragon. Can be quite confusing to start learning the track. It took me a while, but it's once you know where the track goes and you can start to push around the track, it's really worth it. So I hope you guys put in the time and effort to learn the track. It should be a lot of fun to race here as well, the long back straight, opportunities to pass. Should be a lot of fun to hot lap and push by yourself as well. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel.